What is up, you nerds? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be answering more of your questions about becoming a data analyst and working in data analytics. Without further ado, let's get to your questions. If you have any more, leave them in the comments and let's do this. The first question that I have here is, what exact skills do you need in each data analysis tool to become a data analyst? And this is a question that I get painfully often. Not painfully because it's not a relevant question, but painfully because it's a little bit of a wrong one. And if you've been on this channel before, you know that I don't really like cookie cutter, black and white, context-less answers that pretend to be a one-size-fits-all solution to all the pain points that you're going to encounter in your journey to learn data analytics, because I don't really think that those kinds of answers exist in a lot of the cases, and if that's what you're looking for, I'm afraid you're going to have to swipe left because it's not a match. But if you are able to tolerate some nuance and context from someone who's actually taught themselves these skills and to essentially become a data analyst, do keep watching because we're about to have a chat and a bit of a heart-to-heart, if you will. And so I'm not going to beat around the bush with this one. There isn't really an exact list of skills that you need to learn in order to become a data analyst, because it kind of depends on what you're going to do essentially as an analyst. And this answer might seem frustrating, but believe me, it's also liberating. The thing about the tools for data analysis is that they are just that. They're tools, and you're gonna need a set of them in order to do what a general data analyst job description dictates. So things like data acquisition, data management, updating data, data analysis, and visualization generally. Usually the combination might include things like SQL, spreadsheets, maybe pick Python or R and a visualization tool of choice. And I mean, even Python and R have great libraries for visualization, but usually for things like dashboard building and more shareable visualizations, Tableau or Power BI are good examples. But essentially what you want to end up doing is learning the tools to a level of comfort and then adapt them to your use cases, whatever your job title or job description dictates. And so that's what you want to learn to do, rather than have some arbitrary, list of tick boxes that you want to tick through and then basically call it a day. Because you might end up ticking all of these boxes and after that end up getting curious about something completely else, and that might not fit the use cases that you imagined in your list of things to learn. You couldn't have anticipated that because the industry and the field changes a lot, and so you're gonna end up learning something new anyway, and that's what makes this field so exciting. So if you're looking for a field of work where you learn these things once and then you never have to learn anything again,
because you already tick the boxes,
this is probably not it. Instead, what you need to achieve is a level of experience with the tools of your choice where you're comfortable learning independently about those tools. So maybe you take some courses at first in order to get to that level of experience where you've used them enough to get to what I call the understanding what to Google and understanding when you've landed on little gold nuggets in Stack Overflow level of experience. And that's honestly all we do. Ask anyone in this industry. We look really great on paper, but we end up just Googling how to do our jobs all day, every day. There are a bunch of courses online that teach you how to use all of these tools and adapt them for data analytics, which I've talked about in previous videos, and you can just literally Google tool for data analytics, whichever you prefer. And spoilers, none of the people that are creating these courses are trying to sell you short or scam you out of your money by teaching you these things. Will they cover every single use case possible in analytics? No one will. And if they claim to, they're probably lying, and that should probably be the one that you should be sus about. And there's no point in covering every single use, because imagine that you end up learning all of these skills before you do any analyst work at all. Will you end up using all of these tools and all of the functions and all the formulas on your checklist in your first data analyst job? Probably not. Will you, however, forget about some of the functions, formulas, skills, whatever you want to call it, before you in fact get to your next job where you might need some of them? Probably. Is that learning in vain? No, but could you use your time in a better, more targeted way in order to get proficient in a couple of skills and then get to a job and practice and actually get get that real world experience and then figure out from there what other skills you might need to learn to become better at data analytics. Now see, that's where the money is. You don't need to become perfect. You don't need to take some arbitrary list of boxes. It's just about getting enough experience and enough skills in order to land that job. And it honestly, for some people, it literally is like you learn SQL and Tableau and that's it. It's more about the experience and like what you can show that you can do. Don't make it an excuse to try and figure out some perfect list of skills before you even start learning. That's just gonna slow you down and kill your motivation to actually learn anything before you even get there. And it's ironically over analyzing when you're trying to learn analytics. So don't make that excuse. Just pick a skill, get really good at it, and then add another one. The next question is, I'm currently enrolled in an Excel to SQL specialization in Duke University via Coursera. I'd like to hear your thoughts on taking whole specializations with combined courses versus doing different courses from various resource points. And I think this is a really good question because this depends on where you are in your learning journey, your previous skills, and your personal preferences. The reason that I personally like specializations so much is that they are a collection of courses that are specifically built to follow one another and build a skill set in a structured way. And if you're in the beginning of your data analytics journey, they can really be a great resource to not be overwhelmed by trying to pick the right courses or the right skills. Specializations, especially on sites like Coursera, which I absolutely recommend, are created by institutions and companies that have experience and understand the industry standards of data analytics. Companies such as Google and IBM, as well as some universities, are creating all these specializations to ramp people up in a way that creates employment opportunities, and that's why I really like them. They kind of take away some of that overwhelm in the beginning and lower the threshold for people to actually get started rather than stay in that sort of figuring out what to do phase. That's also why I'm currently working through and reviewing the Google Data Analytics certificate specialization in Coursera for you. It's linked in the description below if you're interested in checking it out. I think these specializations really help it get you started, and then you can supplement your learning with individual courses after. Now, when it comes to individual courses, they can also be a really great resource to supplement your learning or specifically target an individual skill. Now, if you've been here for any specific amount of time, you may have heard that I rave about the Udemy SQL Bootcamp course, which is also linked in the description, because I highly recommend it if you want to dive deeper into SQL. But it's the one that I took when I learned SQL way back in the day. It's still very relevant, and it gives you a really great overview of data management and data analytics with SQL, and it really does so quickly. I think I spent about 3 weeks on it when I went through it. But if you have some experience on just generally data analytics, or you just want to specifically hone in on one skill or acquire just one specific skill, then individual courses are probably a better way to go than entire specializations and just generally more specific and targeted. If I think about someone who's just getting started in data analytics and maybe wanting to switch careers or just completely enter into this as a new field, I would actually highly recommend the specializations for one specific reason, which I already kind of covered, but it really lowers that threshold for you to actually get started and build the skills in an order that makes sense, and without you having to spend a lot of time thinking, you know, if you're learning the right things. I know there are a lot of you in my audience as well that are wanting to enter this industry without necessarily a lot of experience in it, and it just gives you sort of that understanding of the data analysis flow and a little bit of experience in data analysis projects. And then after that, if you either are interested in an individual skill or really want to practice something, then I think individual courses are a great supplement to those specializations, like the Google Data Analytics certificate or the IBM Data Analytics specialization on Coursera. I'll link both of them in the description if you're interested. In addition to those, individual courses are great, but to get to that point where you kind of understand how data analytics works and what the work looks like, doing specializations first gets you to a point where you understand better what individual skills you might want to add into that or what you might get want to get better at and what you like, because it's also really important to just get better at skills that you like. And so then picking individual courses that specifically target those ones is great. That's kind of my 2 cents on that question. Hope that helps. If you have any questions, do let me know. The next question that I want to cover is one about my experience and how I came to this industry. So did you start with 0 experience and just classroom knowledge, or did you acquire an internship before you landed your first data analyst job? And for those of you who have seen my video on my career path, which I'll put whichever corner it is where the info cards are, I'm not going to go too into this question just because I've already made a video about how I ended up where I am today. But I had no classroom knowledge on analytics when I finished college, so I came into the industry in 2016. I did my bachelor's degree in international business, so I didn't really have any kind of data analytics or data management understanding of it or experience before. I ended up taking on a temporary data specialist role because I couldn't get any of the consulting internships that I wanted to get, and so my ending up in this industry was kind of an accident. And so no, I didn't have any of that, but also didn't do any internships. In theory, I did data analysis even in my first data specialist job, which was very focused on just very basic data quality work, and then progressed to more data management type of things. But I even during that time I didn't have any particularly technical skills at all. And then after that I was there for a year. My contract got renewed a couple of times, and I really completely fell in love with data at that point. I really did. I got headhunted to do consulting, which I ironically ended up not liking very much, but I did that for about a year for master data management. I still didn't really do anything too technical. I was in the financial industry advising companies on how to create master data records and have better data quality. From there, then I entered into a role that was more of a mix of data analytics and data management, both. I learned SQL during that consulting job because I saw that my more experienced colleagues were using it. I was like, okay, I see that might be useful for me to take this into the next level. And so that's kind of when I entered more into the analytics space. I can't really say that I have a very this is how I got there and good strategy on how I became a data analyst or became any kind of a data professional, because I really didn't plan it at all. But yeah, no, I had no classroom experience. I had no internships. I'm here by accident. If you want more details, you can watch that video on my career path up until now. It explains it a little bit more. What I do want to say though is that there are many ways to get into this career path, and don't think about it just as you need to get an internship and then you get into data analytics. It's one way to do it, but as I said, I was a data specialist, which is much more geared towards data management aspect of data quality, and it was also a very good path because it really made me understand why good quality data matters. And when I eventually did go into analyst roles, I actually liked data cleaning because I knew that when I did that, I was doing something very important. I was getting to know my data, and it would make my life a whole lot easier afterwards. So there's that. The next question that I want to tackle is what are some of the challenges you encountered while getting into or learning data analytics, and what tips would you have to overcome them? And I really like this question. I don't think I've been asked this one a lot. The first one, obviously, I had to teach myself analytics. I didn't have a background in it, but I also want to say that it's completely possible, and that's why I like to talk about this on my channel, because I really think anyone can learn these skills and anyone can enter this industry without necessarily going to school for it. Figuring out what to learn was tough, and back in the day, I don't think there were that many sort of specializations as I was talking about earlier. There were online courses, and that's what I went for as well. There was kind of maybe a lack of direction, or it wasn't really as easy to find roadmaps to how to actually learn all of these skills. So that was one. I was definitely overwhelmed by all the information out there, which is why I'm just honestly so excited about these specializations. I can't stop raving about the fact that some people have put together all of this information in a way that teaches you not only about the technical skills, but also sort of the career path and how to get there, and what the sort of softer and more contextual skills like stakeholder management and communication and stuff like that are. I'd also say finding a community of like-minded people really helps when you're learning and figuring out what to learn, because seeing what other people are doing and what they're working on is really inspiring and give you ideas on projects and basically what skills might be useful for different kinds of things. You see people doing things differently than you do, and so that's really good. I knew that right now in the world it's really hard to meet people face to face, but places like YouTube, places like Instagram have people that are sharing what they're doing in the data space all the time. On YouTube, I'd say, if you haven't yet, check out people like Alex the Analyst, Luke Barus, I hope that I pronounced his last name correctly, Tina Huang I think is her name, and Kenji, and Instagram as well. I'm on Instagram, and there's just a whole host of people that are sharing data related things. Follow people that are in the same space. Learning can really get lonely when you're doing it by yourself and not in like a program or school, wherever, where you have like a class of people. Connecting with people that are on that same journey and path is actually super inspiring and helpful in terms of motivating yourself. A second kind of struggle that I'd say I had was just figuring out what a career path might look like, because I mean, I came from business school and no one was like, well, here's a data analyst career path for you, because they obviously didn't teach me any of the skills. I think knowing what that might look like instead of the traditional marketing and management consulting career paths that I got exposed to in school was a tough one. But in terms of tips for that, internet is great for innocent stalking, and so looking at people's LinkedIn profiles, looking up people who are on paths that like you find interesting or inspiring, people who do podcasts about data, for example, and talk about careers are really good resources. And so looking up those people to figure out what they did before. I do want to caution though, don't necessarily idolize a ton of people that are like 5 to 10 years ahead of you and try and become them, because this industry changes so fast that 5 to 10 years ago what something was might not be the same as it is today, and the same career path might look a bit different. So maybe look at them for inspiration and sort of figuring out what types of roles might be a path. But also, if you don't know what a career path in this industry looks like, take it as sort of as a blessing in disguise, because that's what it has been for me as well, because I didn't know what to expect. Like, what would a career path in this industry actually look like? What should it look like? Which has allowed me to pursue roles that weren't necessarily traditionally like for data analysts or even someone from a business background. It's come up to a pretty interesting career. I guess another sort of struggle I've had is just like in any industry where you don't have a lot of experience, it's really hard to first know what questions to ask or even what was expected of me in terms of a job description, because it kind of, I had to learn it as I went, because no background in it, didn't really study an entire specialization before diving headfirst into this. So as I said earlier, that's also why I'm so excited to see that these companies that are creating these specializations are actually thinking about how to get you ready to become a data analyst. So working currently through the data analytics courses from Google, honestly, like, it warms my heart to see that they're really homing in this on the skills that like get you job ready. They talk about stakeholder management, they talk about how to think about communications as a data analyst and how to communicate with different types of stakeholders, and all of these things that maybe if you only take individual courses here and there, that as a whole come out to a complete data analyst skill set technically, you might miss out on these sort of softer, less technical skills that are just as essential, if not more so sometimes. And that's why I'm so excited about this, and I really recommend checking them out if you're thinking about getting into data analytics and don't really know where to start. So I've now been filming this for a very long while, and I don't want to make this video a year long. I'll cut it up here, but seriously, if you have any questions other than what I've answered here or in the previous videos, which I'll link down below and in the info cards right around somewhere here, do let me know in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them there or in a future video. If you like this video, if you found it helpful, if it answered any of your questions, the thumbs up button is below this video, and I'd really appreciate it if you clicked it, because it helps the algorithm know that this was helpful and push it to people who are also interested in this, and, you know, spread the data love. And if you like videos like this and you'd like to see more content about data analytics, project management, working in tech and productivity, hit the subscribe button. You know where it is, and that's all. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.